It literally shook my house, and my house is really large, double-layer brick, 120 years old almost.
And it's 5 blocks away.
And it's at least 5 blocks away.
An explosion felt throughout an entire neighborhood. 7 homes damaged, 7 people in hospital, and police allege it was all the fault of an impaired driver who struck a gas line. That driver, now charged, crashed into a home, striking the gas line. That set off a fiery chain reaction of destruction. Chris Glover has our top story tonight.
It was what happened before this fireball shot into the sky last night that woke people up in London, Ontario.
We felt that, we thought it was a bomb going off.
Initially, I thought perhaps a train exploded because the tracks aren't too far from here. Pictures came off of our walls, the books came off of our bookshelf.
Around 10:30 last night, a car collided into a home's gas meter. Roughly 15 minutes later, an explosion.
I felt my house shake and heard a loud noise, and I got the impression that there was a vehicle that hit my home.
Flames shooting 10 meters into the sky, landing on and damaging 7 homes. Exploding accelerants were reported for hours afterwards.
You could hear cans going off and stuff like that, so we just got everybody out of there, so we didn't want any more explosions going off.
The light of day shows a debris field a block away. Crews still battling flames into the morning.
At this point, we believe the fires are out, but anytime that you have a collapse or you have walls coming in on each other, there is a potential for fire to be trapped underneath.
The home at the epicenter is completely gone. Luckily, no one was there at the time. Even before the explosion, 2 fire trucks were already there trying to get the driver out of the car that had hit the home. 4 firefighters and 2 police officers were injured.
I find it amazing that literally there was no people that were actually hurt other than our first responders.
Only 1 firefighter remains in the hospital in serious but stable condition. Roughly 100 homes were evacuated, and it's unclear if anyone will be allowed home tonight.
It is our hope, but I'm not going to make any promises that I can't keep at this point. We're going to treat this on a minute-by-minute basis.
Fire officials are now going to homes that don't look impacted to make sure they're safe.
We've got some family in the area that we're going to stay with if we can't get back in the home tonight, and we'll just kind of go from there. It's an inconvenience, but it's only property to us, and we'll be back in eventually.
Police say witnesses reported seeing the car driving the wrong way on the street moments before it collided into the home's gas meter. A 23-year-old Kitchener woman was arrested. She was allegedly drunk at the time and now faces 5 charges, including impaired operation of a vehicle causing bodily harm.
Chris, still trying to figure out here, hit the gas line and I guess it ruptured it, and it took another 15 minutes before it actually lit.
That part is puzzling authorities as well, but the gas company says natural gas wouldn't explode without an ignition source, so that's what they'll be looking for. And then there's the matter of how the car hit the meter in the first place. When gas meters are near a street, they're surrounded by cement or metal bollards, but a rep from Enbridge says the home that exploded didn't have this protection on its meter.
This is an extremely unusual occurrence. That vehicle did have to cross the street, a sidewalk, and a very sizable front lawn in order to hit that meter, which is extremely unusual. So if a car is backing out of a driveway or passing by at a low speed, it will stop the meter from being damaged. It unfortunately could not withstand. Even if this meter had bollards, it wouldn't have been able to withstand the impact because it was at such a high speed. In order to make them of sufficient size to withstand an impact of a vehicle at that speed, they would be extremely large and it would just not be practical.
So Enbridge services the neighborhood and cut the natural gas to 54 homes, including, obviously, the one that was hit. Luckily, the main supply to the neighborhood, Dwight, that was not damaged, and there's no word tonight on when the gas will be reconnected.
Just incredibly lucky nobody was killed there last night. Thank you for that, Chris.
Thank you.
Somebody was making moonshine. Peel police say a house explosion in Brampton that sent 4 people to hospital, including a 1-year-old girl, on Tuesday was caused by an exploding alcohol still. Fire officials say the equipment used to distill the alcohol was found in the basement of a semi-detached home on Head Herdwick Street. As a result, some residents have still not been able to return to their houses. Officers say a 57-year-old Brampton man was arrested and charged with arson by negligence. Toronto police are urging people in North York to be cautious after two suspected arsons in the area of Yonge and Shepherd. Police released this security video of one of the arsons. Both incidents happened between July 13th and 20th in residential neighborhoods. Police are asking the public to keep an eye out for any suspicious activity in the area, particularly during late nights and early mornings. And Peel police are investigating a homicide after a man was found near a creek in Brampton this morning. The victim has been identified as Wayne Wojcicki, a 47-year-old man from Brampton. Officers found his body at 8 a.m. in the area of Steeles West Drive. The man was dead when police arrived. Investigators say there were other signs of trauma. No information has been released about possible suspects. And a worker has died after derailment at a CN rail yard in Vaughan overnight. York Regional Police say the call came in around 2 a.m. for a report that a rail car had derailed and a worker was trapped underneath. Paramedics were called to the McMillan yard just off Highway 7 between Creditstone and Keele. Police say the person was pronounced dead at the scene. The Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Transportation are investigating.
One union leader calls it the calm before the storm. Teachers will go back to school without a contract. I'm Lorenda Redekop at Queen's Park. I'll have more on what it'll mean for the school year ahead. That story coming up.
An independent committee looking at bullying at St. Mike's College says it remains a systemic issue 9 months after the all-boys private school was rocked by allegations of a brutal sexual assault. Mike Wise has looked over the report for us. It was made public just a few hours ago. He joins us now with more. Mike.
Dwight, the school comes under a lot of criticism in this independent report. It says it found no significant change in rates of student bullying or victimization. You'll recall last fall, police charged 7 students in connection to some alleged hazing events involving its junior football team. Some of those events were even captured on video and shared on social media. Now, the report drew on surveys and in-person interviews with current and former students along with staff, and it found 206 boys at the school. About 1 in 5 students reported they'd been bullied during their time at St. Mike's, 70 saying that's lasted a year or longer, 88 saying they'd been bullied because of their race or religion, 54 said they'd been sexually bullied. Now, the report noted hazing no longer appears to be an issue and says bullying rates did go down after all the publicity last fall, but it suggests the bullying may have become more covert as a result. It makes several recommendations ranging from rewriting codes of conduct and student handbooks to hiring more women as teachers and at leadership roles at the all-boys school. Dwight?
So, Mike, what is the school saying about this report tonight?
Well, staff at the school were ready with their responses. They put out a statement, even a message on YouTube saying the school is committed to a swift adoption of all of the recommendations in the report. Here's a bit of the message from interim president of the school, Father Andrew Leung.
The top priorities that the school will be addressing is bullying and the impact that it has on students. We must be better in this area, and we will.
Now, the school points out in that statement bullying is a societal issue and that the rates of bullying at St. Mike's were comparable to other private boys' schools in Canada, but says that is still not acceptable. It also hopes that by making its report public, it can help other schools address their problems as well. Dwight?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
The first day of school is fast approaching, and teachers are expected to go back without a contract. Elementary and secondary contracts are set to expire at the end of the month. Lorenda Redekop with the upcoming battle between 2 teachers' unions and the Ford government.
This commitment today by the Secondary School Teachers Union.
Let me be absolutely unequivocal. We will be at work on the first day of school.
Harvey Bischoff spoke to his union leaders from across the province in a speech filled with anger towards the Ontario government.
Many times in the past, the barbarians have been at our gates and we have always driven them back. We have seen the likes of Doug Ford, but he has never seen the likes of OSSTF FASO.
But it's still early in the negotiations process.
We haven't yet got to a bargaining table and had a chance to
exchange substantive items.
Elementary school teachers also met today.
Students, in fact, would be, and they will be there their first day of school and throughout the month of September.
Sam Hammond calls this the calm before the storm.
We have entered into negotiations in good faith with this government, and as I've said, the initial meetings that we've had have gone well. They've been respectful.
Since the Ford government took power, there's been widespread backlash by teachers after cuts to education, job losses at school boards across the province, and promises of major changes still to come, including mandatory e-learning courses set to begin next year for high school students. The education minister doesn't view the changes as cuts, saying the government has invested in education, and he worked to set himself apart from the unions.
And I've heard some unions talk about that they're readying for battle, whereas I'm really readying to focus on a resumption of class in September. We are working hard and expediting our negotiations to land that deal. I think we can do so in good faith, that one that could make students and educators and parents proud.
Both teachers' unions are also launching campaigns with TV ads expected soon as they attempt to win over the public during this dispute. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
We had some rain pass through the region this afternoon, Jeff. Feels like it almost cooled things off a little bit.
It did, Dwight. Dare I say it feels a bit fall-like out there. Temperatures right now, look at that. We got some in the teens. Markham at 19. Just a short time ago, Toronto was at 18, but we bumped it up a bit to 20. Factor in the humidex, slight humidex, more around the Golden Horseshoe. Quiet for now, but that's about to change. So we'll show you the radar now. All those, that batch of moisture has moved east in and around the Cobourg area, and I do think that we'll stay dry for the rest of the night. May see this batch of moisture just clip the Bruce Peninsula over to Gravenhurst and Parry Sound, but really nothing for us in the city. That's the precipitation story. Now let's talk about the humidity. We're going to be socked into it this weekend, particularly toward the tail end. By Sunday, feeling 37, back to work on Monday, feeling closer to 40. So while I say it feels a bit fall-like right now, that's going to change in a big way in a few days. But let's enjoy it for tonight. Dipping down to 16. Wind shifts around to the north and just a slight chance. We'll keep it in there for some showers tonight. Friday afternoon, very similar to what we saw today. Starts out with a mix of sun and cloud. Then we'll see increasing cloud cover and maybe a shower late afternoon. So what we saw today, high of 26 tomorrow. Probability of precipitation, Dwight, we've got that at about 40%. We'll talk about when the heat arrives coming up soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
See you in a bit.
A bizarre turn of events in a notorious murder case. The family of slain Toronto woman Laura Babcock is being forced to prove to the Ontario coroner that their daughter is, in fact, dead.
It just scrapes the scab off again. It's horrible. I just assumed that once there was a conviction that the coroner's office would be notified and, okay, so these people murdered her, so that person must be dead. But there isn't any communication between the two offices.
The 23-year-old's remains were never found, and the coroner's office has yet to issue a death certificate, leaving the family with yet another hoop to jump through to find some closure. Babcock was one of 3 people who died at the hands of Dylan Millard. Millard and Mark Smith were found guilty of first-degree murder in Babcock's death in 2017. Police have linked 3 separate sexual assaults dating back to 2015 to one suspect through DNA evidence, and they are asking the public for help to identify him.
This man is predatorial, and he's looking for young women walking on their own, full stop. I believe that there have been probably other victims who haven't reported for various reasons, but I encourage them to come forward. If they've had any contact with somebody that matches this description, I encourage them to give us a call.
The first incident happened on July 28, 2015, when police say a 23-year-old woman was approached from behind by this man, dragged into a laneway in the area of Dufferin and Rogers, and sexually assaulted. A year and a half later, on January 1st, 2017, in Collingwood, a 17-year-old was pulled into a vehicle by a man and sexually assaulted. Police released this sketch of the suspect today. And the most recent attack happened just last month on July 15th, around 10:30 p.m. A 28-year-old woman was ordered a rideshare along Lakeshore between Newfoundland and Strawn. She was then driven to a parking lot in the area of Jane and Eglinton and sexually assaulted. Police believe the incidents are escalating in violence. They describe the suspect as 25 to 35 years old with brown skin, approximately 5'5" to 5'9", with a small build and a short beard. It's believed he suffered an eye injury during his last attack and may have visible bruising or cuts. And police have released some surveillance video in hopes of finding this man wanted for sexual assault. Police say a 34-year-old woman was walking in the church in Maitland area around 1 a.m. yesterday. He accompanied her into the apartment building, and once inside, he sexually assaulted her. The man is described as late 20s to early 30s with a muscular build, short braids, and slight facial hair. You are looking at the Lawrence Heights Community Center, where inside a town hall meeting is happening right now. Politicians, police, and community leaders are there to talk about safety and preventing gun violence in the area. I had a chance to talk to the federal representative for the Lawrence Heights neighborhood, Marco Mendocino, about how governments can help end the violence.
One of the ways in which we're trying to address gun violence is not only to invest in police and resources, which is all, downstream, but also looking at ways to prevent those crimes from occurring in the first place. And this is what our government stands for. This is what me as a local member of parliament, what I try to bring to the table. So investing in those programs, particularly in the summer months, right? So that kids have camps to go to, they learn how to dust off their CVs, get those job skills so that they can be totally competitive.
It is about keeping them busy. Do you worry, though, that we just saw some kids in the community center, lots of kids taking advantage of the camps here. Do you worry, though, that in a lot of these programs, you're preaching to the converted? Those kids that are coming to the community center, you've already reached them. You're a prosecutor. Are there some people here that you just won't be able to reach? And then how do we do with that? Because then the rest of the kids have to deal with this violence that's going on around them.
I don't want to write anybody off. I'm an optimist. I know that there will be, some who end up making poor choices, and that can lead to real tragic consequences.
It really can, yeah.
And organized crime is definitely something that we do need to deal with. So,
and it seems like there's a hierarchy, and the kids in these neighborhoods are part of that whole system. Some of them.
And the mayor, kudos to John Tory and to the chief of police, who are good partners with the federal government for taking the decisive steps that are necessary to ensure that we've got enough police on the ground. But that's not the only solution. And we do need to look at other measures. And one of the measures that I've been personally in favor of is looking at a potential targeted city handgun ban. And there are many within our government who are advocating for that. And, if we do decide to introduce some additional measures, we'll be putting that to the people. One of the tragic consequences of 1950s municipal planning is that Lawrence Heights was walled off from the rest of the neighborhood. It's difficult to access. There's basically one road in and one road out.
With all of these public housing communities, I don't know who the architects were, but it was not a good plan.
It was a major flaw. And so revitalization in Lawrence Heights is going to open up the community again.
We've got lots of great, hardworking people in this community.
Thanks, Mike.
They deserve better, man, so let's hope they get it.
I appreciate you taking the time to come visit.
Thank you.
It's clear the Blue Box program has become unsustainable.
How recycling is processed in this province is drastically changing. Putting the producers of the items into the hot seat coming up will bring you the province's new plan. That story a little later in the show.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
The Prime Minister and some of his cabinet are out working the campaign trail today, even though it hasn't officially begun yet. But questions about the SNC-Lavalin affair continue to dog the Liberals after yesterday's release of a scathing report by the Ethics Commissioner. Julie Van Duzen joins us now from Ottawa with more. And Julie, a lot of people are wondering what happens next.
Well, I mean, everyone's just trying to digest this report from yesterday, and certainly the Prime Minister's kind of confusing, contradictory apology, non-apology, has a lot of people wondering what he really means. He did say yesterday he takes full responsibility. He said the buck stops here when it comes to Mario Dion's report. But when asked repeatedly, and again today, well, then if that's the case, why don't you apologize? I mean, when your kid does something wrong, you usually get them to say sorry. But he doesn't seem to be capable of doing that, even though, as we know, he is the Prime Minister that has made many apologies. So today he was asked again, but he dug in. He was actually quite defiant about why not apologize. Now, there are people who are out there watching this, including Jody Wilson-Raybould, at the center of the storm, who is vindicated by this report. And she says Canadians certainly deserve an apology. So let's start with the Prime Minister, then Jody Wilson-Raybould.
I'm not going to apologize for standing up for Canadians' jobs, because that's my job, to make sure that Canadians and communities and pensioners and families across the country are supported, and that's what I will always do.
I would have liked to have heard from the Prime Minister that there was a recognition that something went seriously wrong, and that it would have been nice to have heard the Prime Minister provide some measure of an apology to Canadians for what went wrong.
Yeah, the polls must be telling them something, Julie, that they're not apologizing. So is there another shoe about to drop in all of this?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question, because some people are saying in Quebec, for example, you know, this issue doesn't hurt the Prime Minister as much as in other parts of the country, so it's possible he's not apologizing so that it looks like he did nothing wrong to Quebecers. But moving on in terms of what might be next, the Ethics Commissioner, Mr. Dion, said yesterday in his report that there were at least 9 people that said they had relevant information, he doesn't name them, who wanted to talk but who weren't cleared to talk, even though he complained both to the Prime Minister and the Clerk of the Privy Council. So today, both opposition parties are jumping on that, saying, let's call an emergency meeting of the Ethics Committee, let's bring Mario Dion there, and let's ask him what else is out there. So we'll see what happens there. But certainly Jane Philpott, who was also kicked out of the Liberal caucus and who sided with Jody Wilson-Raybould, said, there is more to know, and Canadians deserve to know it. Take a listen.
I think Canadians want to know that they've heard the full story, and there's a certain amount of transparency that is obviously not in existence at the moment.
So right now, of course, the Liberals want to move on, and the Conservatives and the NDP and the other parties want to know more. Now, Dwight, I think there's something like 67 days till the actual vote, and that is an eternity in politics.
Really is. Senior reporter Julie Van Duzen in our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Transit has been king on King Street going on 2 years now. Have we gotten used to the changes? Is it really moving us any faster? I'm Ali Chiasson. Coming up, we do a temperature check live from King Street.
The King Street pilot project went through a lot of scrutiny, tweaking, and protests before it was made permanent in April. Now that streetcars are king along the route, how's it going? Ali Chiasson joins us now live from King and John. And Ali, you checked in on the project today.
That's right, Dwight. King Street is always very busy with people, with transit, more so than cars. So in that sense, it was a success, but there are still changes that can be made. And as one special guest in this story tells us, other cities are taking note of what we're doing here. Just because it's permanent doesn't mean it's perfect.
There's space. I mean, there's less traffic. There's pedestrian traffic as well that's kind of squirrely.
And now you have like patios to dodge a little bit too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the King Street pilot project was made permanent back in April, but it doesn't look all that permanent. We still have these old bus shelters up all along King Street, confusing people still today who are waiting on the wrong side of the street for the streetcar. We talked about that with the general manager of transportation with the city, Barbara Gray. We're right near one of the partially dismantled bus stops. When are those coming down?
At the end of October.
It's still a work in progress.
If we haven't put in yet, we will soon put in some more of those signs that light up to show the turn restrictions, the left turn restrictions. Those make it a lot easier for drivers to do the right thing. And then we've also been working with the business community, which, as you know, has been an ongoing bit of work.
How could we forget? What were frosty tensions in the winter have warmed slightly now that it's patio season. A similar plan is now being applied to a major artery in New York City. It's exploring making part of 14th Street a transit priority corridor. Whose idea was that? Andy Byford, how are you? The former head of the TTC joined us over the phone in New York.
Going back several years now, I remember standing on a street corner of something like King and, I'm going to say, possibly University, and somewhat provocatively at the time calling for no cars along King. I knew I wouldn't get that, but just pointing out that our streetcars, TTC streetcars, were hopelessly mired in traffic, crept along at a snail's pace, and something radical had to be done.
So the King Street, as we know it today, are you happy with it?
The key performance indicators, the success criteria that we set at the start between the chief planner and I, namely that we would see increased ridership, that we would see an increase in speed, and that we would see decreased journey time. All three of those metrics have been met. So I would argue and certainly take satisfaction from the fact that at the time radical proposal has in fact worked, and that's to the credit of the TTC staff and city transportation.
Would you say people are used to it now?
I think people are used to it now.
Whether we like it or not, it is here to stay. Let's get to some of those numbers, shall we? According to the city data, all along King Street, 30,000 minutes of travel time has been saved by travelers each day since it became a transit priority corridor, and ridership has also increased by 16%. Now, the city continues to monitor ridership data throughout the year, and the Toronto police are still having to come out and do blitzes sometimes, so we might have more of these transit check-ins to come. I'll send it back to you, Dwight.
Yeah, but the streetcars behind you are packed, so people are using that route. Thank you for that, Ali. Metrolink says it's adding dozens of new GO train trips in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area.
We are introducing nearly 150 new and extended weekly train trips across the GO network. This means an expansion program that will transform GO into a comprehensive, two-way, all-day rapid transit system with service every 15 minutes on core segments of the network.
The announcement came as part of a broader increase in GO train service to improve rush hour, midday, and evening availability. Some of the changes include 50 new weekly train trips on the Kitchener line, a new express train option to Bramalea, and a new westbound train for commuters traveling to Bloor, Weston, Etobicoke North, or Malton GO stations.
It's the timeline, roughly aiming towards 2025, 2026 for the full introduction of services. And these increases today serve so many communities across the region. It's a good step forward.
Today's announcements will also impact commuters outside the GTA. Metrolink says a new express option for Kitchener will save commuters 20 minutes a day, and a new year-round weekend GO train service between Niagara Falls and Union Station will be launching as well. The changes take effect August 31st. And a busy day for the Ford government. They also announced a big change to the Blue Box recycling program, saying in 6 years, the province will no longer use taxpayers' dollars to fund it. As Greg Ross explains, instead, they're putting the onus on the people who create the materials.
It's a concept that's been tossed around in Ontario for more than a decade. Today, Environment Minister Jeff Yurek put the wheels in motion to make it a reality.
By December 31st, 2025, producers will be fully responsible for providing Blue Box services province-wide.
Under the current system, municipalities cover 50% of the costs for recycling in the province, while the companies that produce the materials foot the bill for the other 50%. Moving forward, producers will be responsible for 100% of the costs for recycling their materials, which includes overseeing the Blue Box program.
It's clear the Blue Box program has become unsustainable. It costs municipalities and taxpayers millions of dollars a year, and those costs are expected to increase by approximately $10 million a year after 2019.
Yurek says ultimately he expects the new program to force companies to rethink their recycling policies.
They have to write a check to Stewardship Ontario to cover half the cost of the recycling program. They have zero say of what's going on. They have zero incentive to change how they're packaging. They just set the check and send it in. By moving the total cost to the producer, they now have the ability to reduce their costs by changing how they package materials, and I think that's key.
While the idea is widely supported, NDP environment critic Ian Arthur said in a statement, "We have serious concerns about whether this government will do this right."
We'll see what the regulations actually say and if they're tough enough.
Emily Alford with the Toronto Environmental Alliance says the onus is on the government to mandate strict guidelines for producers.
The only way the system works is if we have good regulations, when producers are required to pick up all the packaging they put on the market, and they have really high recycling targets to meet and real penalties.
Alford also questions why it's going to take so long to get the program up and running. The province won't have guidelines for producers until 2022, and the program won't be in full effect until 2025.
That means another 6 years of plastics entering the environment, ending up in our lakes, and just going to disposal.
The province says it needs time for consultation with the public, stakeholders, and Indigenous communities.
The Environment Minister says when it comes to the way people recycle in their homes, that's not expected to change, other than having a much clearer list of what people can recycle and possibly a longer list of what people can put in their Blue Box. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
With plastic pollution now rampant in the world's most populous regions, it's not at all surprise that signs of contamination are showing up in the remote Arctic. Take a look.
Since 2014, it's been known that plastic is appearing in sea ice. It's been found in the Central Arctic, in the Bruford Gyre, and in the Eurasian Basin. And so we were curious to know whether similar occurrences of plastic would happen in the Northwest Passage. Over the course of a couple of days, we collected some plastic from some pretty thick ice, some ice that was about 8 feet in thickness. It turned out there was so much plastic that you could look at it with your naked eye and just see all of the beads and the fibers and the filaments sitting there in the bottom of the container.
I think we're not treating our planet very thoughtfully. Basically, we produce all this packaging materials and don't even think about what is happening to this in the environment.
We know that most of what we are analyzing up there and measuring are long-range pollution, coming from the continent, coming from Asia, coming from all over the world.
For us, it was kind of a punch to the stomach to see what looked like a normal sea ice core in such a beautiful, pristine environment, but just chock full of this material, which is completely foreign to the environment.
These leeches officially got new relatives. A brand new species of leech has been discovered after 40 years. I'm Angelina King at the ROM. I'll have more on the new discovery and the Canadian connection. That's coming up.
If you play the lottery, you may want to check your ticket. You could be a millionaire.
The biggest outstanding ticket is about $1 million. It was sold in Toronto, in downtown Toronto, and it was sold in December of last year, of 2018. We want to give away that prize money. That really is the customer's prize money. But from time to time, customers may misplace those tickets, may put them in a junk drawer or in a winter jacket.
There are currently 26 unclaimed Ontario lottery and gaming prizes out there. The OG says the winnings are worth nearly $4.5 million and they are set to expire. It was higher, but a man came forward to claim a $250,000 prize recently from a draw from last year. We caught up with some people in the city to find out what they would do if they had the winning ticket.
It gives you hope, right? Like I play, like every day I try to play one number, just so that I know that tomorrow I could wake up as a millionaire.
I want someone to tell me like, hey, I didn't really went for this money, can you go for it and just pick it up?
Like if I'm buying something to win, I would double check every single day to see maybe, you know, I can be a millionaire. You never know.
Never know, OLG says it pays out 99% of its prize money each year if you aren't able to check your ticket in store. The OG says they now have a lottery app so players can check their tickets from their phones. They add players can still claim a lottery prize even if they no longer have the winning ticket. The OG keeps a digital catalog of tickets sold. Sorry, Jeff, take it away, but do I have any tickets? I got to go back to my desk and check if I have a ticket sitting around there.
I was thinking that, Dwight, but you said it was sold in December, so I was at CBC Montreal then, so no, it's not me, but I'll hold out hope for you,
Okay, you go
Dwight.
to the forecast, I'll go look for my ticket.
All right, we'll kick it off with the headlines. Tonight, Dwight, what we're going to go through, we've got the risk of rain once again through your Friday. Nothing major, not a washout. We'll touch on that soon. Unsettled weekend. I can't rule out showers or thunderstorms here or there. Best bet, just grab the umbrella and a plume of humidity. We're going to be socked into humidity toward the tail end of the weekend, Sunday into Monday. Right now, you wouldn't know that it's coming our way. It's only 20 right now in the city. Factor in the humidex, 23. So this is about the last of the comfortable days that we have because check this out. Okay, tomorrow's not too bad. 30 by Saturday, we're at 33. Sunday, 37. And as you head back to work, so all the commuting, if you come in and out of the city, 39 is what is in store for Monday. So mounting humidity right through until Monday. That's the temperature story. Let's talk precipitation. Waking up Friday morning, just a mix of cloud for the city and the GTA. But look at this, just before the dinner hour on Friday, a batch of moisture all around us. We'll have to watch to see if that presses north to south. Right now, I've got it at about a 40% chance late afternoon we could see some showers. Starts off cloudy on Saturday and then, you know the name of the game, right? Some more showers pivot in. This is now Saturday morning through to the afternoon. Not going to be a washout. But again, bring the umbrella. Temperatures tonight, another comfortable one overnight, 16, very slight risk of showers, but I do think that we're going to stay dry. And tomorrow, sort of what we experienced today, we're going to start sunny, increasing cloud cover. And then, remember, those were the showers that we were just chatting about around 5 o'clock. We'll have to watch to see if it shifts north to south, a high of 26, which is bang on average this time of the year. Showing you your 5-day forecast right now. So this is really interesting. Our temperature really stays steady around 26, 28, but the humidity is going to build each and every day right through until Monday. So by Monday, our core temperature is 28, but it's going to feel 39 and really unsettled for the next few days. Our probability of precipitation ranges from 40% to 60%. So best bet to bring that umbrella, and especially it's a big weekend, Dwight, with the CNE underway.
Yes, and I'm going to be in the beaches on Saturday with an umbrella on the beach. Thank you, Jeff.
Good plan. You got it.
As we head to break, here's a look at where our markets closed today. Fears of a lingering recession sent the markets diving yesterday. Well, today, they're slowly recovering. The TSX evened out at around 16,000 points after yesterday's big drop, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed at 99 points after suffering a major loss of 800 points on Wednesday. Stay with us. We will be right back. They're something most of us try to avoid, but some researchers are seeking them out, and it's led to a creepy, crawly discovery. A new species of a North American medical leech has been discovered with the help of a Toronto professor. We sent our Angelina King to check it out.
I'm here at a lab at the ROM, and we are talking about a new species of leech that's been discovered, the first in 40 years. But as it turns out, it's been living among us for quite some time now. I'm with Sebastian Kvist from the ROM, and you happen to have one of the new species, but he is no longer living. She is no longer living.
Correct, and that was a good way to say it. He, she, right? Because leeches are simultaneous hermaphrodites. This leech is a new species of medicinal leech that we have now described mainly from the eastern seaboard of North America, some states there, and it's called Macrobdella mimicus. Okay.
Ooh.
A lot of people think that the wider end is actually the mouth, but the skinny end is the business part right here.
And these are still used today in modern medicine.
They're used a lot for post-surgical applications. Say that you lose a digit or you have flap replantation surgery. What happens is when the surgeon sews the finger back on, blood will flow out to the finger, but it won't flow back into the body because the arteries will heal a lot quicker than the veins. So you stick a leech on, and it will relieve the congestion of the veins. It'll prevent these black fingers that you might see, and it'll simultaneously promote the healing of the veins and the arteries.
And what does the discovery of this new species mean for modern medicine, or just for, knowing what's out there in the world?
But we're hoping that down the line, the knowledge of this new species will help us to find new anticoagulants or new blood thinners that these leeches have in their saliva. And that might be a benefit to all the humans that suffer from these diseases for which they need blood thinners.
And I think a lot of people are trying to avoid these guys when they're at the cottage, at the lake. If you do have a leech on you, what do you do?
We normally tell people not to do anything about it. The best thing is actually to leave them until they've fed. They'll drop off on their own accord. If you desperately need to get the leech off and you're afraid of it, which you don't really have to be, then I suggest that you do exactly what you do now and go in with your fingernail right by the mouth and sort of unlock that pressure that it has on, and then simply lift it off.
So no salt, no burning, no lemon.
Right, so leeches don't spread a lot of diseases, but one way to get an infection from a leech is if it regurgitates or spews up a bit of the blood into the wound that it's created. It does that when it's stressed, and a really good way of stressing a leech is pouring salt or lemon on it.
It's a great way to show positivity and love and share it with everybody in a time that can be really difficult.
Using art to spread hope. We'll bring you this woman's journey through breast cancer and how she's turning a difficult time into something beautiful. Her story after the break. It's the second time she's been through chemo, and this Thornhill woman is making this extremely hard time beautiful. It all started when she let her children paint her head, and now Liesl rather, Johns has found that it's a new way to connect with others.
Oh my Lord, goodness gracious, girl. I'm Leslie Quincy and I'm currently battling breast cancer. I have family and friends and artists who are all helping to paint my head in order to help me through my journey of cancer. It's a great way to show positivity and love and share it with everybody in a time that can be really difficult. I'd hoped to share it so that if I was going to go through this, I wanted other cancer patients to see that there was a positive way to help get through, a feel-good way. And for me, this makes me feel good. The second one my sons did was the rainbows, which was fun because it was just rainbows and puffy clouds. I went and met a friend. We had been walking around on the cancer floor at Sick Kids, and the mom was reaching out and just kind of saying, "Oh my gosh, your head is so beautiful. My daughter would like this." And the little girl was, "Please bring her to me." And she's around 6 or 7 years old. It was an awesome experience because I got to chat with this little girl. She was on her second round of chemo, so she was prepping to lose her hair again. And her final words were to me, "I want to have my head painted like her so I have the same superpowers." I have a Facebook page, and it's about the journey, this cancer journey. And it really kind of spills the beans on what does a bad day look like? What does a good day look like? What do the side effects look like? And what does it mean when somebody's saying they've got a lot of side effects? It's not the end of the world. There's a positive way of kind of going about it that can actually make it feel like it's just your brightest days are yet to come. It's really doing a beautiful thing about changing the conversation because it actually gets people to come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, your head is so cool," or "different," or whatever. And, some people will approach me and say, "Is that a tattoo? Did it hurt?" It's funny. It changes that conversation so they're comfortable in coming to see the art. And then we talk about the cancer, and they're open to talking about the cancer.
It is beautiful. So it's been a mostly sunny week. Will the weekend be the same? Jeff will be back with a final look at the forecast. Plus, it may not be your first go-to summer dessert, but it is in the Philippines. We'll bring you to a Mississauga restaurant serving up halo-halo. After the break, stay with us.
Flores Kohani. I'm the owner of Carinderia by D. Flores, a Filipino restaurant located at Mississauga. When I think halo-halo, I think of summer back home. Halo-halo is a Filipino shaved ice dessert. Comes with homemade tapioca, pandan jelly, atsuki Japanese red beans, white navy beans, and banana plantain. They're all sweetened, and then top it up with shaved ice, condensed milk, and then we put the jewel of the crown, which is ubi halaya, then leche flan. It's basically a cream caramel flan. Top it up with sweetened coconut as well, and jackfruit.
I like desserts of any kind. A big anniversary for one of the city's most popular tourist attractions. The Toronto Zoo turns 45 today. Opened in 1974, it was the world's first geographical zoo. That means animals and vegetation are grouped the way they would be geographically in the wild. Until Toronto was amalgamated, it was of course called the Metro Toronto Zoo and remains the largest one in Canada. It spans 710 acres in the Rouge Valley. A now retired monorail took visitors to remote areas unreachable by foot. Oh, I remember that. To commemorate the zoo's big birthday, visitors enjoyed a 45% off admission today. Now, these three special residents have called the zoo home since it opened. They are Charles and Josephine, who are Western lowland gorillas, and I think that's Pupe, a Sumatran orangutan. P-U-P-P-E. All right, so what kind of weather will they be enjoying up at the zoo this weekend?
Yeah, the weather will be tropical and topical. We will be talking about it because we're really cranking up the humidity, Dwight. You'll probably start to notice it tomorrow. So tonight, comfortable 16, slight chance of showers, but I do think it's going to stay dry. Tomorrow, very similar to what we saw today. Mix of sun and cloud, building cloud through the afternoon, slight chance of a shower. We saw it a bit today, but
Yes.
it was nothing major. Just bring the umbrella with you. It will feel about 30 tomorrow. But we'll crank that up Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday.
And it'll be spotty all over the place.
Exactly. So grab the umbrella.
And be
Better
ready
to be
for
safe.
it.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
You got it.
That's it for our show tonight. Thank you for watching. Mike Wise has your next local newscast at 11. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6.